Hi all, so what we're doing today is going through the Customer Information Management Assignment 2, which was the individual report briefing. So just for clarity, just so you know what's going on, Sarah Penny, will be taking over as unit leader throughout this resit period. So if you've got any questions, you'll have to direct them to me, as Jane Rogers left the university in May. Was it May? I think it was May, and Sarah Simone and Diane Earls are only part-time members of staff, so it'll be me who takes this over as the unit leader throughout this resit period, and I'll be offering loads of support to you guys throughout online sessions, one-to-ones, phone calls, or Moodle question forums. So please just ask me any questions that you have. Just so you're aware, this assignment is just exactly the same as what you did in term time again. So for those of you who submitted stuff in your term time, you will be able to reuse that and rework it until it is a pass. And those of you who were non-submission or had an exceptional factors as a reason why you didn't submit, you will be able to learn from all of the sessions that Sarah Simone did on this coursework and actually put that into practice and submit this time round. So just so you guys kind of have a bit of an understanding of this unit, we are going to be setting the scene of the assignment and we're going to be looking through it. So what we need to kind of understand here is that you are doing a report. So it's 3,000 word maximum report, where you're kind of looking at developing a customer relationship management strategy for any organisation that you pick. So it's an organisation of your choice. And what you'll need to do is actually look at thinking about it, researching it, conceptualising and designing a customer loyalty programme that will improve this organisation's ability to understand and manage their customer relationships. So what we're really looking at here is, what is a customer loyalty program, designing one that is logical for an organisation of your choice, and using it as a way to improve their customer relationship management. And so you need to be able to do that. So specifically, this assignment is asking you to do 7 very explicit things. So if you look at the assignment brief, it's asking you to write a 3,000 word report, and there are 7 tasks that you need to make sure that you undertake, and these are the tasks that are marked. So what I want to do today is kind of look at each of these tasks so I know that you know what they are, and then I'm going to go through some pointers and some frequently asked questions. Some answers to some frequently asked questions I'm already getting from you guys via email. So what I'll be doing is doing that, and then any questions that you've got at the end of this session, we will be able to go through them as well. So this assignment, we know that we need to come up with a customer relationship management program through our customer loyalty program, and you will need to conceptualize this and design it. So the first task that they have given you in this assignment brief is to provide a description of your organisation and their purpose, defining the characteristics of their marketplace as well as their customer base. So what we're looking for you to do here is to start off really, really strongly by understanding and researching your organisation. So what I'd advise you to do is pick an organisation that you like, that is reasonably big, so you're going to be able to find some information on it, and start using some of the library resources to research this, because we're going to need a lot of organisational understanding here, and actual understanding of who their target audience is and who their customer base is. And all of this is going to need to come through. So we're going to look at some market information, some organisational information, as well as looking at their customer base in detail. So that's what your first task will be to do, is to really look at this organisation and think about, what are they currently doing? What is their marketplace? Who are their key competitors? What are their competitors doing? And who are their target audience for this organisation? And go through that in quite a lot of detail. You'll then required to identify and define the organisation's customer relationship management problems before solving it through the introduction of a customer loyalty program. So what you need to really do here is understand what are the issues in the relationship between the customer and the organisation. So you'll be able to do lots of research online, looking at the website, looking at reviews, looking at some of the research that you'll have found out about this organisation, and actually understand what some of the problems are with this organisation, and actually think about how would a customer loyalty program bridge the gap between this customer and the organisation and help solve some of these problems. So this, once again, is you identifying through research what the organisation's problems are and defining them explicitly within this report, and actually going, this is a problem and this is how I will solve it. So you're going to need to think about that really carefully. It does say problems here, and therefore it suggests that you can come up with a number of problems. But what I would actually expect here is to come up with like 1 to 3 maximum problems, because what you need to really do is have problems that are solved by a customer loyalty program and your conception of this customer loyalty program. And the more variables you bring in, the more issues that you'll have with this one customer loyalty program solving these problems. So to make this task less complex, really think about what are the key issues in the relationship management problems and not every single issue. Then the next task is to design a customer loyalty program that aligns with your chosen organisation that will address the problems that you've identified. So obviously we've presented the problems in the last task, and what we're really doing now is designing a loyalty program that aligns to your chosen organisation and helps solve these problems, and describe how the customer loyalty program will work in practice. So here's where you're going to have to really make some key decisions. Are you going to make an online customer loyalty program? Are you going to make an offline customer loyalty program? Or are you going to make a mixed media where it's both offline and online customer loyalty program? Due to the fact this is an assignment and you're doing this in a limited amount of time, I would advise you to pick either offline or online and not trying to do both, because this will be a lot of work in such a short period of time. And what you need to do, therefore, is design a customer loyalty program. Some really great examples of customer loyalty programs are the online-based Starbucks rewards, where you can have a physical card, but now you have the app where you can get your 15 stars and you can get free coffee. So that's what I do each week. There's the Caffè Nero one, which has launched from their paper cards, and they've moved that onto the app, which is very similar. You've got your Tesco Club Card, which I'm assuming that you'll have been told a lot about this term and a lot about by your tutors. And you can think about all these different ones. You all have reward schemes such as Fabletics, where you will get points for giving a review of a product. And you need to think about these things really carefully and how you want to reward and how you want to create this loyalty and what problems you need to solve. And you will design your loyalty program around answering some of these problems. So the next stage, and task number 4, will be to look at explaining how the customer loyalty program will improve your organization's ability to manage their relationships and improve retention rates. So obviously, one of the key things around any form of loyalty scheme is to keep your customers and retain them for longer. And consider both the short-term and longer-term benefits of your customer loyalty program within attention to any customer communications. So what we want you to do here is really think about the short-term goals and the long-term goals of a loyalty program. So are you going to put some short-term wins in that and longer-term wins? that will benefit your customer to stay loyal to you and within your loyalty program short term and longer term. So do you want to have a sign up bonus? Do you want to have bonuses in the first 3 months? Do you want to have a longer term discount scheme? What do you want to do? And you need to really think about this carefully, about what your customer journey is going to be throughout this loyalty program and what they're going to get at the beginning of the loyalty program and ongoing throughout it. Because one of the big disadvantages that we see from loyalty programs is people will be annoyed when only new customers are getting an offer and they're getting nothing as a repeat customer and a repeat customer and a repeat customer. So how can you build that within your loyalty program and really consider some of the frustrations that customers could have? So we want you to really think about that and really think about the communication that you're going to have with your customers throughout this loyalty program and to keep up the retention. Your next task then will be task number 5, where we were asking you to discuss how you're actually going to promote your customer loyalty program using paid channels. So paid for channels, and how you will need to explain why customers are going to join this loyalty program and what they will benefit from this participation. So you really need to think about this carefully, because not all loyalty schemes are about discounts, because you are still trying to keep a profitable customer in your journey. You need to really think about carefully, how are you going to promote this scheme? And how are you going to do it through paid channels? Are you going to do it through paid social media advertising, influencer marketing? Are you going to do it through email? Are you going to do it through your current customer database, through phone, text messages? You need to really think about this carefully, because if it's an app, you may want to seed this through paid channels that you're going to see it on a mobile phone, so you can send them a link where they can very easily download it. If you're thinking more about an offline or an omni-channel program, you may want to think about how are you going to get someone hit and paid reach to someone in an offline environment. So really think carefully about what channels are going to be appropriate for your specific loyalty program that you've designed for your organization. So you really need to think about that. And you also really need to think about what is the selling point. Why are your customers going to want to be part of this loyalty program, and what are their benefits from their participation short term and long term? Then task number 6, which I've been asked a few questions about already. So we're going to go through this in a little bit more detail later. But if you look on the Moodle area, there is an entire section on the customer value, lifetime value, where you can calculate this, and a spreadsheet where you can actually use it. So we'll go through in some detail the calculation, and then you'll find more detail on the Moodle area, or you can come and see me. So what you need to do is using a spreadsheet. So we'd want you to attach the spreadsheet to the submission, or screenshot the results into your report in some way. In the appendix, if you really want to. And using a spreadsheet, because this is the way we've taught you how to do it, we want you to calculate the customer value before and after you've introduced this loyalty program, so you can see the improved retention that it will translate to a higher value customer. Okay, so you really need to think about that carefully, because what you are looking for is to introduce a loyalty program with the costs associated to it that will still improve the customer value. And you need to critically evaluate this at the end of the report. So what you're going to be doing in this task is coming up with the values, and you will report on the actual physical values in the report, and you can put the screenshot of your spreadsheet in your appendix. But what you're actually going to do is report the numbers rather than the spreadsheet. And your final task, which is task number 7, is you're going to have to really think carefully about your loyalty program and critically evaluate this loyalty program you've developed in this as a discussion. You're going to include some of the ethical issues that this raises. So remember GDPR, remember what can we do with data, what should we be doing with data, and the debates that you've had around that this year, and the legal implications, but also the ethical and moral implications of some of the customer loyalty programs, because you've got to remember some of the debates where we get really, really good predictions through the analysis of data, where it's kind of freaky for the customers and they find it quite intrusive. So really think about it carefully, some of these ethical issues that the use of a customer loyalty program will cause. And specifically your program in particular. So you could maybe mention some things that are not relevant to yours, as in, I have considered this, therefore designed it in this way, but also this is an issue and we need to be GDPR compliant, or we need to be this compliant to make sure that we are ethical. So you need to do all 7 of those tasks in your report. What I would advise you to do is kind of look at the marking criteria, because it does give you some really key things. It gives you an introduction, the CRM problem, the explanation of the loyalty program, the structure and referencing, and the evaluation of your customer loyalty program. So what it kind of does here is gives you a template of what value we are giving to each of these sections. So the introduction and the background information of your organisation, its market and its customers, and where the organisation is now, and do they currently have a loyalty program, all of that information is worth 20% of your entire grade. So you should be looking at the minimum to do 500 words for that, ideally around 600 words of this 3,000 word report. Then if you look at the identification of the CRM problem, its design and its description of the loyalty program, you are looking at here about 800 words, I think, in this section, where you've got the CRM problem and actually designing your loyalty program and coming up with your scheme. You've then got 25% of your marks are going to an explanation of the program on its customers and the paid promotion and the customer value calculated and analysed. So that's going to be around another 800 words. And then your final 600 words will be your evaluation of your customer loyalty program and the ethics around it. So if you really think about this carefully, you're going to be spending around 600 words on task 1, around 800 words on tasks 2, 3, and 4, and around 800 words on the other half of task 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 6 and then 7 is going to be about 600 words. So just to repeat that, and I'll put it in a Moodle announcement so it's really clear, we'll be looking for task 1 to be about 500 to 600 words. We're looking for tasks 2 to 4 to be around 750, 800 words. And then the other half of task number 4, 5, and 6 will be around 750 to 800 words. And your task number 7 will be around 500 to 600 words. So you need to come in under that 3,000 word count, because it is an absolute word count and we don't take plus 10% here. So you need to think about that really carefully. Just a rough estimate, and I'll send that out as a Moodle announcement so you can actually see it written down and understand it in more detail. So what you need to do there is think about those 7 tasks. So looking at task 1, the big question I keep being asked is, what size of organisation should I pick? Could a small cafe be a really good one, or could this clothing brand at Hatch be a good question? Well, no, the answer is no, because could a really small cafe really afford this online electronic customer loyalty program, or a really complex loyalty program where you're analysing data and investing both time and money into it? And the answer is no. So you need to really think about this carefully, because you're going to have to be realistic in your choice of organisation. Are they going to have the financial resources to back a good customer loyalty program? Do they have the technical competency to be able to run a good customer loyalty program? And are they actually going to have the human resources and the knowledge within the organisation to keep this running after you've set it up? So what I would actually say to you is, when you are picking this, pick an organisation that you're going to find a lot of data for and would realistically have all of those things. So what I would suggest is organisations such as big supermarkets, or some of the smaller supermarkets like Booths would still have the resources to do these sorts of things. A high street retailer such as HMV, H&M, Topshop, a cafe chain such as Costa Coffee, Starbucks, or those sorts of ilk, or a chain of, say, sandwich shops somewhere like Pret. What's their customer loyalty program? Would you want to reevaluate their customer loyalty program? So you need to really consider an organisation that you're A, going to find a lot of data on, and B, would actually be able to afford to implement this, because it's really important that you are being realistic with this and that you're not just making an issue for yourself through having such a small organisation that you are struggling to find any data. So you need to really think about some other considerations as well throughout this work. That some questions have been asked of me that I actually want to ask back of you. How are customers going to sign up to your loyalty program, and why are they going to sign up to your loyalty program? So you really need to think about this carefully. How and why would someone buy into this loyalty program? Is it solving such a big problem that there's such an intrinsic advantage, or are you going to have to, in this paid promotion, actually seed them something that will get them involved in it? Are you building a community through your loyalty program? So I would just say you need to really carefully consider what the loyalty program is, and how and why would customers even bother? Is there an advantage to them? You need to really think about what customer information that you need to collect through whatever loyalty program you do to get a stronger relationship with your customers. What we need to do as marketers in general is collect enough information that we can build a strong relationship, but also not so much information that they feel like they're giving up too much information, and also that we are collecting information that we don't use, because GDPR regulations would not like that. So you only should collect information that you're going to use, and also think carefully what is too much, what is what is enough, and what is too little. So really consider what information you need and what information is valuable, because how valuable an age is versus how often someone is repurchasing, you need to really have a consideration on what is the most important data there. And if you're going to be using some form of point system, or you're going to use some form of reward system, how are you going to use it? What is the customer loyalty program? What is the point system? How does it work? What do the points translate to? How many points do you need? How realistic and how often do you think people will collect that many points? So therefore, considering how often you're giving back a reward. What reward systems are you going to offer? What are the value of the rewards going to be? Because you really need to think about the value of the customer, and that's one of the reasons why in task 6 you need to actually work out the value of the current customers. Is because you can't keep giving so many rewards, so many points, and so much value of these rewards to your customers that they actually become unprofitable customers long term. And are you considering giving them a physical chipped card like the Boot system or the Tesco Club Card system? Are you thinking about giving them an app where they need to have a smartphone to be able to engage with it? Or are you thinking of something else? So really consider, what will the customers physically have? as their evidence as being part of your customer loyalty program and have as their engagement point with your program. I just want to give you some recap on some of the report format. I've been asked a few questions around how do I want it presented. Well, any title page, any list of contents, any tables, and any diagrams, any appendices, and your list of references at the end of the report all do not include in the word limit. So what I will be expecting from you is a full report with a title page, with a contents page, with any tables and diagrams in there, with a reference list and with an appendices, but none of those elements are going to be included in your word count. The word count will be from task 1 all the way through till task 7. Words in your standard declaration for the non-disclosure agreement at the beginning of your assignment, if you choose to have one, does not include in the word count. And any words, if you choose to do an executive summary, any headings, any subheadings, any thing like that, do count towards the word limit. So if you do an executive summary, all of your headings, all of your subheadings, all of your introduction, all of your main body of your report, all of your conclusion, and all of your in-text citations do count towards your word limit. So just be aware of that. So your title page, your list of contents, tables and diagram, your appendices, your list of references are not included in your word limit. But what is included is an executive summary, your headings, your subheadings, your introduction, all of your main body of your report, your conclusion, and your citations. Your submission deadline has been given to you by the exam board, and they've told me it's the 8th of July 2019 at 23:55. So what you need to do is make sure that your entire work is uploaded by 23:55. So do not wait to that exact moment to upload it, because by the time it's successfully uploaded to the system, it will be late. Okay, so please ensure that you submit it in enough time to be able to do that. Do not submit it late, because no late submissions are allowed, so then you'll get the late cap of 0. As it's no longer a group report, you will not need to submit a group element. So that's my mistake. Moodle submission only. There is no paper submission. This is a Moodle submission only. Please do not come into the business school and try and submit a paper submission. Just submit it via Moodle, okay? It will save you some money printing. So just as I went through before, and this is where you'll see my discussion around what the sort of word limit is. Your introduction, which is task 1, is worth 20%, so about 20% of your word count. So we're looking at a roughly minimum 500, ideally 600 words for that section. Tasks 2 and 3, which is your identification of the CRM program, the CRM problem, and the design of the program here is worth 25%. So we're looking at about 750 to 800 words for this section, okay? And you need to really carefully think about that. You will then, in your next section, why is it gone? Look at 25% of your marks are for the explanation of the impact of loyalty program and your paid promotions. That's going to be about 750 to 800 words. You've got your structure and referencing. So if you write it in the correct format with the correct references, you'll get an extra 10% of your marks for that. And then your final 20% of your marks, which is around 600 words, is for this evaluation of your customer loyalty program and to ensure that you have made your ethical considerations. So that's why you need to get your marks, and that's kind of your breakdown of your word limits. So what I would want you to consider really carefully, and these are questions that you need to ask of yourself whilst you are thinking and considering this assignment, is what do you want to get from your loyalty scheme? What do you want your customers to get from your loyalty scheme? And what do you want the organisation to get from the loyalty scheme? Who is the target market for this loyalty scheme? And what do they expect from your loyalty scheme? Are they going to expect a physical card? Are they going to expect an app? What are they going to expect? And what features do you feel are going to be really important as part of your scheme? You need to really carefully consider how your members of the scheme are going to access the rewards. How are you going to reach this target audience through your paid promotion? And how will you promote a continuous engagement with your scheme? How will you get people to firstly sign up to your scheme and then an ongoing retention within the scheme? And what would be your measurement of success for the scheme? Is it to get a certain amount of people to sign up, or a certain percentage of customers? Is it to improve retention by a certain percent? To extend retention by a certain percent? So you need to really carefully consider what would you define as a successful implementation of your scheme. So when we go through this consideration, I kind of just come up with it. We look at some of the advantages and some of the disadvantages of a customer loyalty scheme. So the big thing about this is that here are some of the pros. We know that customer loyalty programs can increase the profitability because it increases the likeliness of repeat business if they choose to engage with that through the offers and through the value that is offered to the person engaging with the loyalty scheme. You need to think about how you are going to reward your customers, because it needs to be a reward for loyal customers and people who choose to engage with the scheme on the long term as well as just the short term. It usually improves customer satisfaction because of the connection and the relationship that you'll have with your customer, which is ongoing. You normally get free customer recommendations because you can reduce your marketing costs because it's an introduction to a friend. It's a lot cheaper to retain customers than it is to acquire new customers. So you need to think about remarketing budgets and this retention budget, and the customer loyalty program falling within that. Loyal customers are much more forgiving of any issues of your brand or your organisation, and you need to remember that's a great, profitable area of customer loyalty. And it actually helps you to identify who is unprofitable, what is the characteristics of your unprofitable customers, and also who are your most profitable customers and what are the characteristics of them. So it helps you with your ongoing marketing activities to make sure you're targeting the right person. There are also some issues with introductions of loyalty programs. So if you were going to go down the physical card route, the manufacturing and distribution of the cards is always tricky. If you're going to go down the route of an app, who's going to build it? Who's going to maintain it? Are you going to have to retrain staff? Are you going to have to train staff in the new loyalty program and what this means? You need to really think about the paid marketing costs that are associated with getting the scheme out there and communicated. And that's one of the tasks that you need to consider, is what you're going to be doing. Are you going to have agency costs? Are you going to bring in campaign designers? Are you going to bring down in printers? Like, how much is it going to cost to run this scheme? And that's a big con. Costs of promotions that you're going to give away, because this means that you are going to give rewards and you're going to give customers some discounts. So what is the cost of giving customers an ongoing discount or a repeat reward throughout their time? So you really need to think about this, because you're going to have to have point of sale terminals, you're going to have database warehouses, and you're going to have data analysis to actually work out who these profitable customers are and who your unprofitable customers are, and remarket to them to keep them within the scheme. When we're looking at task number 6, a lot of people have asked me, what is customer lifetime value? And I'm really confused by this, and what do I need to do in this spreadsheet? Well, when we're talking about customer lifetime value, we are actually talking about how customer acquisition, so creating new customers, is really important. But we know there is a really high cost of marketing associated with making someone not knowing anything about our brand to actually, or our brand or organisation, to actually purchasing from our brand or organisation. And on average, marketers are saying it's about 3 to 10 times more expensive to acquire a customer than it is to actually retain a customer. So through remarketing and through schemes such as customer loyalty schemes. So when we talk about customer lifetime value, we're actually not concerned with what market share we have, but the customers, but keeping long-term our valuable customers. And what this does is, when we look at how valuable a customer is over a long term, it enables us to actually utilise our organisational resources much more effectively to target them on customers that we know are profitable, and to not target them and to intentionally not remarket to unprofitable customers that are actually not doing much businesses with us. So we need to think about that. So when we actually thought about this earlier, I said you need to actually think about what data you're going to collect and what data you would need to know on your customers. And when you do that, I would ask you to consider some of the signs of a profitable customer. So what we've learned over the last few years, and when I say few years, probably 20 years, since the conception of digital marketing and the internet, we have seen variables massively change from our traditional demographics to other things that we find much more valuable to us, as we are able to do, as we're going to be able to do much more interesting things online with our marketing. So one of the things that we've learned, well, some of the things that we've learned are quite insignificant, are things like income, the age of the customer, the number of items that they have purchased, the number of items they've chose to return, the length of our relationship with this customer, because they may have purchased one thing years ago but stayed on our database. What is the purchase frequency, and what is the percentage of purchase value returned? So what we need to actually really think about carefully instead is how many customers purchases, what is the customer's purchases today? So what is the characteristics of those purchases? What is the customer refunds today? So this is how much they've spent, and this is how much we've had to refund them. How much of their current have they refunded? How many different purchase categories have they from? What is the average time between purchases, and what is the average value of the items returned, and the frequency of returns? Is it every order, or is it just once in a while? So you need to really think about that. And here I've left a link to a really important journal article for you to think about those things, because when you are actually looking at customer lifetime value and actually thinking about customer value loyalty schemes and the value of creating this for your most profitable customers, you need to really carefully consider who is your profitable customer. So the most basic way that I can describe customer lifetime value to you is the average order value times the average number of purchases times the average retention time. So that will equal your customer's lifetime value. So the average spend, the average number of purchases, and the average retention value. So if I look at an example, the customer's average order value is £30. The customer makes an average of 3 purchases per year, and the customer's average retention time is 3 years. We would look at £30 times 3 times 3, because that's the amount of years. So that means that the customer lifetime value for that customer will be £270. So that is it in the most simplified form. But when you are looking at this in your spreadsheet, you will see that we look at things like marketing budget and how much we are spending on our paid promotions or loyalty schemes. So you will add in how much does it cost us to get that customer, and then how much does it cost us to retain it as well. So you really need to think about that carefully and go through that spreadsheet in much more detail by yourself. And if you don't understand any of it, you can come back to me. But simplified terms, the customer lifetime value is the average order, the average number of purchases a year, and the average retention time, minus any of your marketing costs, which we ask you to do in that spreadsheet, because we're asking you to actually look at the value before and after the adding in of the customer loyalty scheme. So when you're accessing databases, we've had a look at some of the databases. So specific for this assignment, you're going to be looking for organisational data and some key market research data and key company information. So you could go to Business Source Premier, where you can download some really big company profiles and reports. We'd advise you to also look at Mintel. We'd also advise you to look at Passport. If you look at Lexis Library, that's where you get really good quality newspaper articles. And I would advise you to go through Lexis Library specifically to the Financial Times as well, and look at what the Financial Times is writing about your organisation and get some of that more organisation and market information there, because that's always pretty relevant and pretty up to date. So this is the point where I'm going to open any questions to the floor. As I haven't taught this unit before, I'm not sure what the questions are going to be. So I've answered all of the questions I've got via the email so far up until 5 o'clock on Friday before I start doing these briefings. And then I'm going to have a look at my emails now. Nothing has come in on email during this session. And there are no questions currently on the chat box of the CIM briefing. So what I'm going to say to you guys is, if you've got any more questions, anything at all, just come to one of the drop-ins or put it on the Moodle forum and we will answer them. Have a great couple of weeks trying to get this done and get some research, and I hope you actually enjoy doing some of the research. And if you've got any questions, come back to me. If not, best of luck, and I look forward to reading them. Thank you.